Critically, what we've agreed is that the time for action is now. Consultations will begin immediately with Indigenous communities, relevant provinces and territories to determine listing under the Building Canada Act. This is more than just an accord. It's also an approach that gives certainty to our businesses to build.
That is part of a statement by Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, of course, last week. Big story through Alberta, BC, and a pipeline potentially generating as much as $200 billion in new investment for the province. And, you know, it's one of those stories that's been talked about now for so long. And up until now, it seemed the opposition from BC was going to hold it up. And then suddenly, memorandum of understanding signed with Alberta. David Eby, now, of course, the Premier BC, on board with this. It maintains the tanker ban. So it looks like a win-win on every front. Christy Clark is the former Premier of British Columbia, now political commentator, and is on the line. Ms. Clark, thank you so much for the time today.
Well, I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wonder, given everything that seems to have fallen into place in this deal, are there any things here or anything we can point to and say, well, wait a sec, what if this and what if that? Or is this a win-win on every front as far as you're concerned?
There's always lots of what ifs. I mean, there's always opposition, local opposition, maybe Indigenous issues, maybe environmental issues, rooting issues. You never know. But this is fantastic news for the country. There's just no doubt about it, because for the first time, we have some concordance between the province of BC, the province of Alberta, and the federal government, which has really been missing in action for quite a while when it comes to resource development and economic growth. This is really huge for the whole country, because, you know, when we talk about this moment where we are, want to reduce our dependence on the United States, where many people no longer believe that the Americans are going to be the reliable partners we used to think they were. This export strategy that we have of digging up our resources and getting them to Asian markets is going to mean huge amount of benefit for people all across the country. I'm so excited about it.
Can I ask if it's fair? I mean, this thing has been talked about for the longest time. I mentioned David Eby's name. You were a premier out in BC, not that long ago. What held this up then? What changed now all of a sudden?
Well, a couple of things. So just the funny thing to me is the Red Chris mine expansion, transmission line, the improvements on the Trans-Canada Highway and the new port were all things that were all permitted by my government, which ended in 2017. And they just sat on the shelf because we ended up with, when the government changed, the NDP government said, we don't want to do resource projects anymore. We want to, we want to worry about other things. And the federal government under Justin Trudeau, again, also had a very different perspective on resource development. Well, what's changed is two things. Our Prime Minister really wants to build resource projects and build the economy. And in British Columbia, the NDP's approach to, the economy has meant that the province is really, really struggling. There's no province in the country that's getting poorer faster than BC. So they're in a position now where when the feds come walking in the front door and say, here's what we want, I think they feel happily obliged to just say yes.
It's interesting to note, I heard someone point out today, yes, it's a giant deal. A couple of issues here that were brought up after the Prime Minister's announcement. One, with respect to, this being a private-public partnership, yet there's really nobody on the private side, any businesses necessarily that have sort of come in and said, hey, we're the major partner here, and that's a concern. In other words, great plan, great idea, but where are the details? Is that fair?
It's totally fair. It's real. Like, the lack of confidence in Canada's ability to get things done is very deep in the investment community overseas. And so I'll give you a real life example of that is when I was the premier, we had 18 proposals for liquefied natural gas in pipeline somewhere. People were running like crazy to get them done. And I was committing to everybody we would get it done. And then the government changed federally, and guess what? It started getting really hard to get things done. And over those years, it just meant they'd made an investment. The investment was going nowhere. They lost confidence that Canada could get anything done. And a lot of them said, we don't ever want to invest in Canada again. Now, this Prime Minister, because I think with his history as a central banker and having worked at Goldman, he really brings people and former investors who've given up hope on us see, I think, a real sense of confidence in him. So it's really changed the environment. But the fact that investors all walked away, yes, they had good reason. Canada was making it impossible for them to make any money. And if people don't think they can make money, they won't make an investment.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. I wonder, though, and some people pointed out if that's the case, and yes, Mark Carney in a different league than Justin Trudeau with respect to, the central banker position, the people he knows and has done business with. But why not have them there at that same time to say, hey, wait a sec, I'm not just talking about this or promising this. Here are the people who are going to work with us to get it done. Yeah,
it's kind of a game of show me now. Once you feel like you got rooked, and the person, you don't go back to buy from that person unless they show you they're going to do something different. And I think that's sort of where he's at now. Is he's really trying to build that confidence for investors and attract the investment and say to them, look, government is going to be a part of these investments. We have a strong interest in making this project work so we can see a return for Canadians. That, I think, helps build the confidence. But you know what? We got a long way to go in attracting investors again to Canada. We've got the right plan to do it, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, which kind of begs the question, as much as things have changed, over the past, say, 10 years, we're still at a stage where here's a new government with a new prime minister, and it's I'm sure for some of the businesses, it's same old, despite the fact you have a guy who seems serious. You said it's a great idea. Are you optimistic that it gets done?
Yes, I am very optimistic about it. And there's one other element to this, too, that is, I think, worth talking about. That's that, when you go especially to Asia, and I've been over raising money for some LNG projects recently, the Koreans, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Indians, everybody's losing confidence that the Americans are going to be a reliable partner in the long term. The Strait of Hormuz issues, the impact that had on everybody's economy, the worries about the militarization around Taiwan. Everybody's looking to Canada as a direct route for reliable supply of energy. So the people in Asia, countries in Asia, are highly, highly motivated to do business with us now. That's an advantage that we are really benefiting from. So, President Trump has been, a reason for lots of complaining in Canada. The favor he didn't mean to do us was to make us look like the good guy and maybe the most reliable place to invest in North America. So I guess we can thank him for at least that.
Yeah, and only that. If I would ask you with respect to a timeline, I realize, this is only announced a few days ago. Is this a 10-year project, a 30-year project? Do you know?
Oh, I think they're going to start getting work done on this in the next 6 to 12 months, or maybe 12 months. And then they're going to gun this through as fast as they can. I mean, for the Southern Pipeline, it's going along, the entire pipeline path is disturbed land. So we're not talking about major unknown environmental issues on it. It's also going to be adjacent or close enough to the TMX pipeline that the communities, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, are familiar with, the process and how it all works. So I think it's going to be a lot smoother process, just because they know what they're doing, they know the people, they've done it once. It'll be a lot easier and it'll go a lot faster.
It's funny. The one thing we have to wrap up, I did hear something else suggesting from other Canadian provinces, and I guess this shouldn't come as a surprise, looking at a deal that Ottawa's done now with Alberta, with BC, and saying, hey, where's our project? Where's our big national project? That seems kind of fair too, though, doesn't it?
Well, that's a good idea. I think you guys should get some LNG going. You've got lots of it out there in Quebec. And I know that I can tell you from my own experience, lots of people don't understand it, and they worry about it. It has been a huge, huge moneymaker in British Columbia because we got it done. Those Indigenous communities are wealthy and healthy for the first time. Some of them, those communities, those rural, remote communities, everybody's got a new truck and a new roof on their house. Quebec has so much resource potential that is underutilized. British Columbia has been in the same position for a long time, and I think it would be so great to see the great province of Quebec contributing fully to making Canada, really realizing the incredible capacity we have to be one of the richest countries in the world.
Well, if I can ask you then to that point, you were a premier. I'm sure you met with authorities, the right ones in Quebec, talking about LNG. What was the holdup here? Why do you think this is still an issue here? Because it seems that, the public, when it was last asked now with respect to LNG here, isn't saying, you know what, no, we don't think it's a good idea anymore. Was that always the case?
Well, I think people didn't think it was a good idea for a long time. I know I've worked with other premiers in the past in Quebec who, really opposed it. I think Philippe Couillard was a big fan of it. But, it's public opposition often, and that's really just a lack of, people don't understand it. They don't know what it is. Fair enough, right? Fracking, how does that work? Does it cause earthquakes? No, it doesn't. But, there's a lot of myth making out there. And that's I think, something the government can do is work hard, and the media can do, to make sure that voices educating people about natural gas and the huge potential that Quebec has to contribute and build your own economy, I think can make a real difference. And, it's myth-making versus truth-telling, and the truth-tellers, I think, have a job ahead of them, but I see Quebec going in that direction.
Just as a final question, I remember asking Tom Mulcair about this, and he's very much against this whole idea, and I said, well, you know what, Mr. Mulcair, the way we go ahead and extract this now is very different from what it was, say, 20 or even 30 years ago. That didn't seem to make a difference to him. Is it, in fact, very different now? Is there no reason to be as concerned as we were environmentally?
There is no reason to be concerned. I mean, I think we've demonstrated that in British Columbia. It is, yes, there are issues with it, but we've learned how to manage them. Methane emissions, Indigenous consultations, and fairness of, inclusion of including them in the wealth, and making sure that money stays locally, employing people, making sure that you're using the businesses in your province as secondary and tertiary suppliers. All of that can be worked through, and I think I should sit down with my old friend Tom Mulcair and take him out to northwest British Columbia. He can see all the trucks and the SUVs and the recreational vehicles everybody has in their driveways, and realize that we've taken a lot of people from poverty to wealth.
We'll leave it at that. I'll follow up with him next time we speak. I thank you so much for the time. Very much appreciate it. Hope we can chat again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Christy Clark, former Premier of BC. Interesting take there, huh?
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd.
And more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.